Me again with Resist 35 Profiles of Ordinary People Who Rose Up Against Tyranny and Injustice by Veronica Chambers. And today we are talking about the amazing Fannie Lou Hamer. Fannie Lou Hamer. So we're still in the mid-60s. She said, "There's one thing you have got to learn about our movement. 3 people are better than no people." By the time she was 13 years old, Fannie Lou Hamer had dropped out of school to help her parents on the farm where they worked. Slavery had ended, but the plantations didn't disappear. Crops still needed to be sown, tended, and harvested, and many African Americans remained in the South to do the job under a system called sharecropping. In it, landowners would take a portion of profits from farmers who used their land. Though black men and women were then technically free, a complex system of laws known as Jim Crow sprang up in the South to keep black people from exercising their freedoms, including their right to vote. Fannie Lou Hamer was a young woman in the Jim Crow era. She registered to vote, and once she did, she dedicated her life to making sure that she and anyone else who wanted to vote actually could. Fannie was one of 18 volunteers who went to register to vote in the Indianola courthouse in Mississippi. She pretended she couldn't read or write to see what would happen. The white Southerners staffing the voting booths gave her a test. There was no such test for white voters, no matter whether they could read or not. When Fannie failed the test, they refused to allow her to vote. That was illegal. That night on the way home, the volunteers' bus was stopped and they were fined $100. The police officer said that they were driving a bus of the wrong color, a completely made-up infraction and a clear attempt to keep black Americans from traveling to the polls to vote together. That, too, was also illegal. The freedom of African Americans was being restricted. The message from white people in power was clear. Stop protesting. Stop trying to make your voices heard. You are not wanted, and you are not valued. When Fannie got back to the farm where she worked, she was fired for trying to vote. Fannie continued to press for change so that black Americans could exercise their constitutional rights. It was a years-long struggle. She was arrested. She was beaten. She was shot at. 17 times she was shot at. She was forced for a time to go into hiding. But Fannie Lou Hamer became only more determined. It said a lot about the power of voting that some people were willing to go so far to keep their fellow citizens away from the polls. Every time they tried to stop her, Fannie grew sure of her work's importance. She began to give speeches, and everywhere she went, she moved people with her words. She didn't have a fancy education, but when she spoke, it was straightforward and from the heart, and people listened. Everyone from the farms of Mississippi to the executive office of the White House would come to know the name Fannie Lou Hamer. In 1964, a summer that activists dubbed Freedom Summer because of their unrelenting work towards passing the Civil Rights Act, Fannie Lou Hamer went to Atlantic City, New Jersey. She and the other members of what they called the Mississippi Freedom Democratic Party challenged the Mississippi delegation at the Democratic National Convention and asked to be seated at the convention. President Lyndon B. Johnson was so terrified of Fannie's powerful testimony that he held an impromptu press conference to distract the national television stations from Fannie's speech. But President Johnson's tactic did not work. Because see, that night, every primetime news show carried coverage of Fannie's testimony. Her words traveled from television stations to living rooms all across America. In her most famous speech, Fannie let the world know that she was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Picking cotton was tiring. Working on a sweltering plantation for pennies a day was sickening. But the black community's contagion was intolerable. Fannie never stopped pushing, speaking, and marching. She was taking her place in the march of history. It was a long time coming, but a change was going to come. Fannie Lou Hamer stood for justice. She stood for democracy. She reminded us of all we have been given every time we walk into an election booth and we vote. Our vote is one of the most valuable things we own. So true. So true. I have not missed an election since I was of age to vote, and I'm really proud of that. I believe that it is our most treasured possession, is the right to vote. And when that is threatened, when someone wants to take that away from another person, you're taking away something that inherently is the right that we have as Americans. And for far too long, people have been trying to take that away from other people, mainly black people, people of color, women, minorities, LGBTQ. And as a white man, I know that, and even if I fall into one of those categories, that's the reason why I vote, so that we have people in power that will stop people from doing it. But it's still, things like this are still happening today. We've talked about this in class as well, this past election, and it's going to continue. In other ways, people are trying to get less and less people to vote, which is really, really a shame and very scary. All right, Fannie Lou Hamer, amazing woman. I think some of you should learn more about her. I think she's in. She Persisted, or in that little book that we have, Little Amazing Little Women, or something like that. I forgot the title of it, but it's in that basket about all amazing women. I'm pretty sure she's in one of those, or maybe she's in both. But okay, that's it for now, and we'll see you next time. We are coming to the finish line. I think I only got about 11 or 12 more people out of 35. All right, see you soon. Bye.